Welcome to Amplify, a podcast by the Association for Accounting Marketing. I am Laurie Holt, Marketing Director for HHM CPAs in Memphis, Tennessee, and I'm your host for today's session. Joining me today is Rachael Higginbotham. She is the Marketing Director for Postlethwaite Netterville, a firm that is located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And to tell you a little bit about her background, Rachael leads their marketing department and has over 15 years of marketing and consulting experience, including the last 10 years, which she has spent with her current firm. Her strengths include marketing strategy, business development, coaching and support, ROI development, brand management, and strategic corporate projects. Her focus has been on supporting business-to-business marketing initiatives for a firm of over 450 employees. It's a lot. She directs the internal and external communications, business development efforts, lead generation, and acquisition strategy, as well as soft skills training and branding. So welcome, Rachael.
Thanks. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, we are so excited to have you. Today we are going to be talking on the topic of employee engagement and the marketer's role in that area. So we'll start with our first question. Why is employee retention and engagement a relevant role for the marketing departments?
You know, Laurie, I think it's something that has always been important to marketing departments, but maybe we haven't recognized it as much. If you think of traditional marketing outside of professional services, the product development has always been part of what those departments focus on. Well, in professional services, you can't separate the professional from the service. So what we as marketers are trying to sell or promote is the professional. And if you're not developing your people and you're not retaining your people and you're not engaging your people, then not only can you not sell them, but they can't sell themselves. So making sure that you have the best product and making sure that they're continuing to grow and to contribute in new ways and help clients is critical for marketing departments to be successful. Because even if you get a client one time and then we don't deliver on what we sold to the client, we won't keep that client. Mm-hmm. So it's an ongoing process for not only employee retention, but client retention. It just goes hand in hand.
No, I think that's incredible. I think a lot of times we marketers try to explain that, you know, with a professional service, it's your product, it's your people. And clients want that consistent presence year after year. So during the last 10 years at your firm, how have you seen your role change when it comes to your involvement with the employee retention?
So I think our firm has grown a lot over 10 years, and we've really progressed and moved the needle over the past decade or so, coming from a more traditional marketing department, which I think was pretty standard in the industry, 10 years ago. And I kind of considered myself almost a cheerleader, as the cheerleader with the pom-pom standing on the sideline, going, go team, and encouraging them. But over the years, what I believe and what I hope that we have transitioned to, not only in our firm, but in the industry, is more of a coach. Mm-hmm. So we've really, instead of standing on the sidelines saying, yay, we're standing going, no, do this. And this person needs to go there. And this is the industry that, this is the message that's most compelling with this industry. And this is what you say when you talk to this type of person. And if this, we do a lot of if-then scenarios. So if this happens, then do that. Or designing plays. And I'm not the person to talk football. We would have to bring my 9-year or my 10-year-old son in to talk about that. But when you think about, actually putting together how your team works on the field of business development and growth, I feel like we have a bigger hand in designing that versus just showing up, standing on the sidelines and cheering them on. So really, that's one of the things that I personally feel like I spend a lot of time on, and it's something that I really wanted to do, and it's really been resonating over the past few years when I see people come into my office and they say, Rachael, I really would love to work with this particular company. I think we can really help them. What do you think we should do? So, just having people know that you're a resource for them, giving them different tactics or techniques or tools that they can use to make them more comfortable in the process is where we spend a lot of our time.
It's very cool. Yeah, I definitely think there have been some shifts in that area. And I love how you talk about the coach and thinking of yourself more as a coach than the cheerleader. What are some ways that marketing departments can help with the retention?
It's funny that you asked that, because I always knew that we had a role, but I didn't really understand what that role was. And it sort of came to me probably about a year ago. And part of it is what our CEO, Bill Valhoff, always tells us, is that everybody brings a different strength to the firm and the organization. And as marketers, we think differently. So we hear questions asked in a different way. We interpret things differently than our more analytical, peers that are on the practice side. So I think from a communication perspective, communication is key. That is something that I think marketing departments can definitely work and help with retention. The other thing is, I really think that we have the ability to provide insight into, the industry and the resources from the industry as a whole that we get from things like AIM. So we get a lot of different ideas and best practices, and we can bring them back to our firms and say, this isn't exactly marketing, but it's product development, which is our people.
Right.
And the better our people are, and the better that they feel positioned to meet all of their goals and the expectations that their firms has for them, the more likely they are to kind of find their path and to stay and to grow into the year, with their firms.
No, I think that's great. And you actually spoke at AIM Summit this past year alongside your CEO as well as the director of HR, kind of on this topic. And that's one of the things I wanted to ask as well. So why does marketing department in your firm take ownership of the soft skills training program?
So we take ownership of the logistics of the soft skills training program, because as a marketing team for professional services, we do a lot, just like everybody else, we do a lot of client education. So seminars, webinars, things like that. So we have a dedicated event planner that executes all that. So the skill set is the same, whether you're doing internal or external. And from a strategy perspective, we have a team of people who work together to compile the strategy of the soft skills training. It's called our lifelong learning program. So it's comprised of our CEO, our COO, an associate operations director, HR, IT. We have different people from the practice on it, and our employees actually give us a lot of ideas for what they want to hear about, what they want to learn about that year. So people come to us all the time. We collect the ideas. We rank them. We put together a strategy, a learning ladder for the year. We get it, pitch it to our executive committee. They provide us with feedback and say, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, approve the budget. And then the marketing department executes it. So again, the execution of it is on us because of that event skill set. But that strategy, what I love about the strategy, and I love about, I own certainly a piece of that strategy, the marketing department does, because we do business development training through that process.
Sure.
But it's so, everything just works together in sync, because it's put together about all these different components, which is really what you want your people to be. You want your people to be focused on client service and, have technical skills and have business development skills and have people development skills. And that's what our soft skills training is, leadership, and that's really what it's about.
I love that. It's a very team approach at your firm.
Yes.
So what inspired the development of your firm's program, GPS?
So GPS stands for Growth, Performance, Success. And what our GPS program is a guideline that kind of identifies expectations by level, so staff, senior manager, all the way up, by what people should be doing in our competencies. So whatever those competencies are. So, whether it's business development or client service or, performance, whatever those things are that our firm has identified to be the most important things that our people need to execute on. It's kind of a schedule of, okay, as a staff, these are the things you should be doing. As a senior, these are the things you should be doing. And it was put together, that effort was led by by a group of our professionals that work with our teams a lot. So some of the leaders within our practice areas, and in addition to that, our HR department and our operations department to define what that was. So the marketing department was not involved in the entire GPS program as much as, the competency of the business development.
Okay.
But what it has given everyone is really on paper, you can see exactly what the expectations are by level so that you can say, okay, as a senior, these are the 3 things that I need to be doing as far as business development. But as a manager, there's these 5. So I need to make sure that I'm really good at these 3. And then I start doing these other 2 so that if I want to move to manager, I can do that. And you can do that for every competency. And the reason that we did this was because our people asked for it.
Yeah.
We heard throughout the years, and I know this is common among accounting firms, this is not unique to us, but we heard, that they didn't know exactly what they needed to do to achieve their goals.
Sure.
So we wanted to put it on paper, and it just, it's really, I think, started to resonate within our firm that it's not as complex as people make it out to be. I always tell the story of when I first got out of graduate school, and I started with, at the time, a Big 5 accounting firm. And I honestly, at the time, and I will tell you this was a long time ago, and computers were kind of new. So before the age of the iPhone. But, I did not know how to use my computer accurately or well. I didn't know how to use it well. So if you told me, living in Dallas at the time, that I had to go sell to a Fortune 500 company, I would have been like, but wait, I don't know anybody. I don't know what I'm doing. So I understand where they are.
Right.
Now, they can all turn their computers on, quite frankly, way better than I ever could. But it still can be relatively intimidating for somebody to come into an organization and they say, wait, I'm an accountant. You want me to sell? Well, that's not what it's about. We're not asking you to sell. In fact, if you look at it, nowhere in our process does it actually say sell. What it says is form a network, understand what the firm does, listen to the clients, understand what their challenges are, be good at what you do, and make sure that people know that, and then let us kind of help you facilitate. So at the end of the day, it's not this jumping off of the, of the bridge going, I'm here to sell. Right. It's this incremental path of I'm going to get a little bit better and a little bit more well-positioned each year.
I love that. So you're getting them comfortable with the firm's brand and comfortable with almost their own brand as well.
Absolutely. What is it that you bring to the table? And who can you tell about that?
Yeah. No, I love that. I think that's great. And it's much less intimidating than how do you sell or I have to go out there and sell. So I think that's great.
I think so, because what happens is they start to feel the impacts over time. So instead of saying, okay, well, you're responsible for bringing in 10 clients this year, what starts to happen is they are involved in the process all along, and they understand that it's really, it's a team effort. It's not just one person. Everybody brings something different to the table when it comes to helping clients. And it's a much more natural process. It's like, it's kind of like a baby, right? You have to be able to crawl before you can walk, before you can run, before you can, sprint or climb a mountain or whatever. So I think that's just kind of that gradual approach.
Step by step. No, I love that. I think that's great. And you'll have that all the way up to going into the partner level as well?
We do.
That's great. So how, you said you're a department of how many, your marketing department?
4.5.
Okay. And so how can some firms measure success? Not all firms will have 4 other people in their department. So how can firms of different sizes measure success?
I like this question because I think it's something marketing departments kind of have a tendency to struggle with a lot. And I think that's why a lot of marketing departments depend on some online efforts and things like that, that are actually, more tangible. And we do monitor and watch our online efforts to make sure that they're performing. But we also look at it not only in isolation of what the marketing department is doing, but what the firm as a whole is doing. So some of the things that our firm monitors, and I know these are similar for a lot of firms, but obviously our revenue. So if our firm revenue is trending in the right direction, well, we have to be some component of that, right? Our marketing department is involved in every aspect of sales, from brand all the way through proposal execution. So we have our hands in that. If we're getting up, if our revenue is increasing or moving in the right direction, then obviously we're helping more clients in some form or fashion. You talked a little bit about turnover is another
right.
one. So turnover is, something that is measured by our firm. And while we don't dramatically control it, we do contribute to some of the things that impact turnover. So those communication things, strategic initiatives, training, tools. I mean, there's a lot that goes into turnover. Utilization and realization are two more ways that firms can measure success. So how much are your people, being utilized from a billable perspective, and then how much you're able to collect on that. I'm trying to think what else. So, client retention is something else. So from a client retention perspective, what are your clients leaving? Do you have challenges? Do you have issues? Or are you, on the flip side of the negative, there's the positive of, are you getting clients in a specific area that can allow you to maybe grow that area? So what does your client relationship, process look like? I think the other thing, for us, we can look at, because we have GPS, we can look at aggregated competency scores. So, basically we can say, okay, last year, all of our, I'm going to make some numbers up, but all of our, the average for the business development competency for our seniors was, let's call it a 2.8, right? Okay. So at the whole, most people were close to meeting expectations, but there's a gap, right? So let's try to help this particular area with business development, do some additional training and whatever it is, education at the end of the year, or, when they're evaluated next year, if they've moved to a 3, then that you're moving in the right direction. You're moving the needle in the right direction. So we can look at that. But so I think
rated on the competencies, is that right?
They are being evaluated on the competencies. Yes. Okay. Yes. The competencies are part of their annual performance evaluation.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's how they received their evaluation.
Very cool. So yes, you got some good metrics.
Yeah. So, the other thing too is those are really good numerical ways. And I know that accounting firms like numbers. So it's something that, as marketing departments, we try to speak that language as much as possible. But one thing I also want to encourage people is to continue to speak our own language of marketing. And that's where, the passion and the excitement comes in. And that's subjective. That's not always, it's not a number.
Right.
So when you go into a pipeline meeting and you have, 2 years ago, the room was entirely silent and nobody had anything to say. Yeah. And then you walk out of a pipeline meeting, and this just happened to me last week. I didn't talk. I mean, I led the meeting. I kicked it off. And I would go around the room and I would point at people, and every single person in there had something to talk about. These are managers and senior managers and partners. And when you've got that level of engagement in the business development process, you feel that. They feel it. And that's where, that level of excitement and passion, I think, is just something that marketing can bring to the table that maybe unique in your firm, or maybe is not standard. And so, while we talk numbers, and I like numbers, and I get that is extremely important because we have to be able to show an ROI, I also don't want us to forget about, what that culture is and the feeling, and you cannot measure culture. So, when you're looking at measurement, you have to take into consideration both sides, and don't sell those small wins short.
Right. Now, you're talking about the growth culture at your firm, and I love that you gave the example of the pipeline meeting. I want to jump down to kind of to wrap things up today with a final question related to that. So your firm's culture really emphasizes that growth in the business development. Obviously, that's a competency from staff all the way up to partner. How have you seen that play a role in the employee retention?
So, from a growth culture, you can't just talk about it. You can't just say, we have a growth culture. We have a growth culture. What you have to have, and let me back up to GPS. So you can also put things on paper and say, these are the expectations by level. But if you just hand them a piece of paper, they don't know what to do with it. It's like you could hand me, a blueprint for a house, and I would say, this is really nice, and I get it, but I don't know what tool to use. I don't know how to use the tools. I mean, do I use a hammer? Do I use I don't know. I mean, I'm in marketing. I'm not an architect, and I'm certainly not a builder. So how do I actually execute this? And I think that where we've really made some traction as a firm is in helping people execute, and that's through tools and training. So we talked about our lifelong learning program. We talked a little bit about pipelines and about how we get together and talk about opportunities, but we have other tools as well. I mean, our firm uses Pounce, which is a system that contains all resumes and all of our marketing materials, so that our people are empowered to put things together without coming to the marketing department, because it makes it their tool as well as our materials, so they can go and do those things. I think there's a lot of things that we do from a tool perspective that other firms could do too, when it comes to employee retention. So when you look at business development and you look at training and you look at tools and you look at processes, we've done all these things. But really, if you go back to the very first question that you asked me, which was about how do we play a relevant role in the marketing department. So it goes back to professional services, and it's in developing those professionals and helping them understand that the only way that clients are going to want to work with us is to understand who our people are and to understand the value that our people bring. And our people are amazingly talented, just like there are people all over the country in the accounting industry that are amazingly talented and great service providers. But if no one knows, then how do you that person? So that's kind of our belief is tools and training really focus on product development, which is our people.
And I love the toolkit analogy too. I thought that was fantastic. Well, this has been so enjoyable to kind of hear what y'all are doing at your firm. And I want to thank you so much for joining us today, Rachel. You've shared a lot of information on these topics, and it's something that I think our profession is keeping an eye on, is how to engage and retain the employees. How do we keep the talent around? So thank you so much.
Absolutely, Laurie. Thanks for having me. And look, I could obviously talk about this all day. So if there's anybody out there who wants to have a lunchtime conversation, you're going to have to, tell me to shut up. It's definitely something that I'm excited about and passionate about. And I appreciate you having me.
Yes, absolutely. Well, this wraps up another episode of Amplify. So please watch for another podcast from the Association for Accounting Marketing next month. And as always, remember to aim high.